told by the translator, Vladimir, to speak more slowly. So I will first begin to address the second question. And the first question was directed toward Gina with respect to Cheryl Harris's article, Whiteness as Property. The second question had to do with the processes of struggle during the 1970s. A vast question. And I think what I want to focus on with respect to the ways in which people, students, professors, workers, community people, artists were involved in struggle then. I want to relate my remarks to a point that Gina made in her discussion of Black feminism, which extends itself outwards, which seeks solidarities, which is not only based on individual experience. What I remember from that period, and of course part of the time I was in jail, and much of the studying that I did that led to my own formulation of Black feminism happened when I was in jail. And perhaps I should say that it was an attempt, my own studies constituted an attempt to understand the ways in which we were shaped by history. And so I published my first article when I was in jail. And that article looked at Black women under conditions of slavery. It was called The Role of Black Women in the Community of Slaves. Now, it was not so much a historical project as it was a project designed to help me and others understand how we were shaped by history. And during the 70s, the process about which you ask, I don't see you, the person who asked the question, where are you? Huh? Oh, there you are, all the way in the back. The process of the 70s was very much an attempt to work out our historical positioning. And at the same time to recognize our connections with other communities in struggle. I mentioned in my presentation that the Vietnam War was still going on. So we asked ourselves, how do we position our struggles in relation to the movement to end the war against the Vietnamese people? And that involved what Gina spoke about, an attempt to move outside of our own experiences. So it was a question of understanding ourselves in historical framework and recognizing the extent to which there were similar themes, connecting issues, and I try not to be nostalgic, because I don't like people who say, back in the 70s, this is the way we did it, and you don't know what you're talking about today. I don't like to do that at all. But I will say that there are lessons that we can learn from the 70s. And one of the most important lessons, I think, a lesson which Black feminism women of color feminism attempted to express was the importance of solidarity. Solidarity. And that is to say, a relationship to struggle that is egalitarian. A relationship to other struggles not based on pity. Oh, those poor people, we need to help them. But one based on equality and egalitarianism and solidarity. So that, I think, is the message. I know I've summarized a huge era. But what I will say is that many people think of the 70s as the era of Black Power. The late 60s and the early 70s. The Black Panther Party, right?
No.
Yeah?
Yes. Yes.
And many people assume that we went from the civil rights era that was kind of symbolized by Martin Luther King and nonviolent struggle to Black Power. But what they forget is that we also moved towards feminism, towards Black feminism. And that historical account that I tried to give you in brief points not only to a more militant position with respect to race and with respect to anti-racist struggle, but it points to an effort to complicate our notion of what it meant to struggle for freedom. And therefore we realized we needed to engage with gender and with class, as well as race, and eventually also with sexuality, including today we are struggling to incorporate the efforts of trans communities to think about what it means to develop a larger concept of freedom.